All right, it's just going to be a little rant about life and other stuff. Doesn't have to be about Madden, doesn't have to be football. If you don't know anything about football, I think you'll still like this. But if you like to maybe see Madden and not have to see a lot of game-specific stuff and just see the beauty of slow motions and what this thing simulates while I rant, go ahead and hang out for a while. Look at that. So I've been messing around with Madden, and this rant isn't about Madden per se. It's about the tools in life that we all use and how we manage our time and how some things like football are just mostly about time management. The scoring's almost secondary, or it's just like neck and neck. I know it's the stupidest thing anyone ever said about football, but it's also kind of true. A lot of football is about managing time. And a lot of managing your time is figuring out what you like to do and how you like to spend your time. I say this while watching my local football team get its butt kicked in a home game. One thing I notice is a lot of people complain about Madden a lot and how it's this problem and that problem and whatever. And, a few years ago it still didn't look that real, but now when you play it, it really is like a football lab. I think it's something that almost anybody could learn football from this game. Just doing the tutorials makes it really easy to understand concepts and get a lot of muscle memory, like hands-on keyboard. Dude, I just saw the weirdest commercial right now while I was clearing my throat with some kind of phone service commercial, and the shadowing on this lady's neck looked like a beard. I don't think they lit that thing very well. They should have rethought that thing and made it look like she had a goatee if you hadn't been watching the commercial for the past 5 seconds. So why I kept showing all these replays here is I was playing Madden, having a good time, sort of relearning the game again, taking my time, no pressure, no multiplayer. Just sort of trying to understand the deeper game of football here in my middle-aged years. And I have to say Madden really does a good job of just, even if you don't like football, just to mess around with it. The replay options alone are so theatrical. But yeah, what it really made me realize was, in terms of what Scott Adams says, and other people, of course, sort of managing your, is it OxyContin levels? Managing your happiness levels and making sure that you're not sort of trying to grind too much in your happiness thing to the point where it diminishes your happiness from the thing you're trying to get happiness from, if that makes sense. I think that's a big problem. It's nice people get too locked in, where you get too goal-oriented with something that's supposed to be recreational. And I guess that's also a good way to figure out how you're spending your time. How much of your time each day is spent doing art? How much of your time each day is spent just managing yourself as a resource, and how you spend your time on different things? And we're all guilty, I think, of procrastinating on projects. Isn't it funny how the frame rate got all janky here? I don't know if the thing was downloading an update or what, but it definitely was janky this day. I think it was extra hot too in the house. Check it out. Yeah, I don't know. I just noticed it was definitely not as smooth other days. It's been way cooler in the month or so since I shot that. But yeah, I found I was getting a lot of happiness out of this specific game. And I also realized that I had been buying too many games, period, over the years. Essentially they weren't necessarily making me happy. You ever bought a game and then found you were deeply unhappy with it, or deeply unhappy, or even if it delivered, it didn't really make things better? And I just thought, that was a good thing to focus on, to figure out those symptoms of when is something making you happy. This thing was definitely making me happy. It was giving me big testosterone surges and felt like I was making progress. Felt like I knew what I was doing. just really felt like I was getting an understanding and progress. I think that's the other thing with it is because Madden has this like ultimate team mode where you can just try like a bunch of little scenarios, like a little snippets of games. Because sometimes it's real brutal when you're playing a game and the game stops being fun because it's just kicking your ass for like, half the time. And yeah, there's like hard learned lessons, but it's not fun. It would be good to be able to do just trial and error and learn muscle memory like that. So you could just look at that move right there. That was, I think, one of the first times I gotten some good traction out of stuff. Where like just some amount of time doing the scenarios where it asks you to like try to do a spin, do a juke, do other things, run for 40 yards. That really, I think, helped just like trial and error, like over and over again, instant replay, instant muscle memory practice. And I think that's a good lesson for life too, is a lot of life is muscle memory and practice and planning. And this, between like just the tutorial stuff and then branching off into this and just doing trial and error and then gradually understanding other aspects of how the game measured it, I think it was like a good life lesson too, in terms of like probably better understanding all the rules and things in life that we walk into and understanding the environment you operate in. Today I was at a mini mall area and I saw two adults almost fighting, and one of the adults was like a homeless transient type drug addict person that had been acting weird in the mini mall that I was at, and then even the security guard there noticed him and commented on it. And then on my way out, I saw somebody like him and somebody almost like fighting, and then that other dude turned out the second person was actually acting on behalf of some sidewalk stall operators who apparently this weird transient guy he had done something to them, threatened them or assaulted them or something, and they were mostly old people and women and older men. This was like a younger guy that basically packed that dude out of the neighborhood. And the guy came back, and this dude had to come back and like put the pressure on. It's kind of striking. I think what I like about this game is that it's actually harder than the NFL. What do I mean by that? I mean, like, it actually looks easier to run the NFL games than like some of the stuff in this game. I think this game is actually like as real as reality now, or real close to it. Even modeling like little intricate movements and abilities to stop someone, hold them back, and the extra little yards you get, extra stuff from different people, personality stuff, fact that you can have all these historical players. It even levels them up like RPG style, which is pretty awesome. Like, you don't see that. I mean, I guess you do see that, but like, it's sort of the best of both worlds, like merging Dungeons and Dragons with football, or The Sims, I guess. The good parts of The Sims with like football, and like your characters evolve up and down, gain or lose different abilities and attributes. It's pretty neat because I think it does in some way model some of those intangibles or semi-tangibles. I don't know. That you see out there, and just the amazing stuff you see in games. And like at this point, the catches they do are not unrealistic either. I mean, these amazing catches that you see and you're like, oh, how did I get that done? Nah, I mean, it definitely, like, it's just one amazing catch out after another in college and pro football, and it probably goes for any kind of professional league. But I mean, these people are essentially super high-end stunt performers that can do amazing stuff and are massively compensated to make it happen, like circus acrobats, like Cirque du Soleil. Look at that. Boom. I think that was one of the first times I did a juke. Missed you. You missed me. Yeah, I love that. Did that with the running back that they had for the Chargers back then. It was a good running back. pay a bunch in salary for him too. Boom, haha, missed me. The other thing this has done is help me understand better, like, I don't believe in sports betting, but I do believe in using sports betting odds to find interesting games or to understand when a game is really exceeding expectations and totally changing what the market thought was going to happen. So from that perspective, it's interesting, especially to watch mid-game on a big upset. Like in 2025, UCLA had 2 different upset games. And if you watch the point spread and the over-under during that game, of course, you saw drastic changes to what they were guessing was going to happen. Like, I think one of the best things you can do in terms of appreciating like a good football game or figuring out when a team that is going to lose anyway is doing a good job is just figuring out if they're going to cover the spread, if they're the underdog. It's pretty easy to read that stuff, by the way. Just understand that the team that has minus points on the point spread is the one that's predicted to be the winner, and the point spread is like a handicap to make it harder for them to win and encourage people to vote on the other side. And of course, that line moves. The other major ones are the over under for the total number of points. That's also interesting because it's basically taking the average of all team scores for the past few weeks, factoring in any other issues like someone out for an injury, but really it's just the market doing that as a giant computer. So like the UCLA game was pretty amazing, and there have been a few other amazing games for sure so far in the football season when I'm doing this is 2025. Just some really big upsets and interesting things that happen. Sometimes it's because they have a new quarterback. Sometimes it's because they lose a bad coach. In the case of UCLA, I really think, especially based on the analysis of the first big upset, I really think the dude was using Madden for a good part of his life. And even though he was like a relief quarterback for UCLA, he wasn't so awful when it came to actually doing plays. And apparently he did a lot of different looks at once. And that was definitely a good way to kind of have everybody guessing what's going on. But I think that's not something that people would have done as much before Madden. Madden lets you change all these different plays and, check all these different looks, and also gives you an easy way to sort of quantify your players. You can also pause. So it gives you time to think about stuff. It's pretty interesting, though. It's a good way to think about things. And I think also, like, recently I've been predicting sort of winners that beat the spread, and often it was because I just looked at the stats for the players, like this season. And if a team didn't have any spectacular players or did have a spectacular player, that made a lot of difference for how I thought it would do. And maybe I'm also boiling in a little bit of psychic stuff in there too somewhere. But yeah, I would get a feeling about a game, and my mental calculator would sort of boil all these things together, and I'd look at the point spread, and I'd say, I think I can maybe the team's going to do better than that, or maybe they're not doing as well. Some teams have just been winning because of luck or kickers, and that's a pretty slim margin, and often it's just been enough to beat the spread, but that's not really factoring in things that aren't even like black swans. They're not even low risk or low probability events. People getting injured or having a bad day or a new quarterback who's a first round draft pick is doing better than expected. Like that's what happened to the Chargers this year for the Bills, I think. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff that can go on. That's what I think is fun about this thing is anytime you have a tool like Madden or something else that has a lab where you can try things over and over again, it's often good for like businesses, like business simulations, just understanding complexity, understanding systems, understanding the parts in the system. Football is really good at illustrating that. I think football is harder than chess. Chess is very straightforward and unambiguous with what the pieces can actually do. The combinations are the nuance, right? Well, football has all of the nuance of chess and the specialized players, but it has a lot of other both tangible and intangible factors. And they melt together to make a lot of unpredictable stuff. Sometimes predictable. Sometimes you're like, gosh, why do they run that stupid running play again? That was so dumb. I don't know. It's pretty annoying sometimes when you're watching it, but I think that's what's fun is sometimes you do, like playing Madden, you do get a sense for why that's going on. The clock management reasons, the other reasons, players you're trying to like use more or not risk injuring a certain player after a certain point in the game. That makes total sense. I mean, anybody that's complaining about Madden at this point, I mean, Monopoly from EA or whatever, and EA just got sold, taken private, so that's probably going to be a rock solid monopoly. But I mean, look at the product they're delivering. It is literally at reality level. Like in terms of, I mean, there's like little tiny things they can tweak back and forth. But I mean, if you mess with the broth too much, I mean, the gravity, the way players hit each other, the momentum, the little ways you can grab an extra yard, and then the ways the AI tries to help you too. To be fair, to make it so you are making like breakthrough plays. But I mean, it is a bit unbalanced still sometimes, but it's pretty hard if you don't know what you're doing. I think there's for sure gaming people that find the seams in the AI or the computer behavior, and of course we're right on the cusp probably of true AI becoming a good competitor without rubber banding. I still see a little rubber banding. Rubber banding's like when the computer cheats either for you or against you. And sometimes you'll see that with like weird sped up movements and stuff where it's like, I don't really think that QB would have been able to dodge the QB sack while throwing behind his head to someone to his left and he's a right-hander. It doesn't make sense. But that's rare. And actually, sometimes I feel like I still get too many sacks versus reality. But we'll see. I say that, and then I watch a Chargers game, and the QB literally gets brutally sacked just now. So maybe not so unreal. Some of these things, when you see me do like a weird excessive movement like this, I was trying to unlock on the Ultimate Team Challenges the max number of stars for points. And, you know, I actually ended up doing it backwards. So I was doing it from like the most advanced to the least, to the easiest in reverse order because I was going from top to bottom. And apparently that ended up with me getting awesome players like Bo Jackson for quarterback instead of running back, and some other awesome running back. And then this is like a team challenge, and they wanted me to bust a little spin. So I did that nice run right there. It's pretty sweet. I mean, that's the fun part about this is just watching I think people would better understand, see how that broken tackle made all the difference. That's like the extra factor. Someone else would have got stopped right there with two guys right on him. But because this is some elite level player, and you really do see it in the games. Like I was watching this game today, and this running back just ran through everybody like it was nothing. I think that's real right there. That's, I think, the fun part about simulators and things. But it's really easy to end up spending too much money. Like I've made a moratorium on myself for what I'm going to spend money on versus going back and trying to manage your happiness and your Oxycontin levels. Is it oxytocin? Oxytocin levels. Oxycontin. Oxycontin's a drug. Say no to Oxycontin. Say yes to oxytocin. Oxytocin is the drug that your body makes that manages your happiness. It's like bro science. And playing some amount of game and having like happy moments like that makes you happy. At some point you have 1,000 of those in a day. It's not fun anymore. It's just grinding. And sometimes there's a reason to do that, but often if it's like you're trying to have fun, I think that's like the little league problem with parents and stuff is they go from like trying to have a good time and give the kid that victory moment to like just grinding in life. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that fumble. Look at that. Yo. Here he goes. Here he goes. This was against the Chiefs, so I was all happy. Oh, knock that ball loose. And then gets scooped right up. I can't remember if this got taken back anyway. Look at that. And then my safety? Can't remember. Boom. Right through. Muscles. Right in. Come on. Like as I'm saying, like that was in part because of my inputs. And some of that was baked into the character. So it doesn't just depend on you, but you have your own effect on like the actual action. I think that's just like something that comes pretty close to reality at this point. Maybe exceeds it. Like I honestly, sometimes the games seem more real than the NFL games. The NFL games are slower just because they don't score, but it's like I think you get so much more muscle memory than the real life players at some point that it's like in real life versus, people playing games all the time, being able to one-shot everyone because they're not under real pressure, right? And that they try to simulate that too, even with like the different factors that get activated. It's just a fun product. I don't know. This is the 2024 product that I got free through EA Play through their membership, so it's a couple of years old, but it's like the maybe one or two iterations behind, but it's awesome. I mean, look at that. Just sometimes you see a little bit of clipping there, like there. But look, basically that whole formation helped block the offense from getting to me. Look at that. Boom. Handoff. Oh. QB. Doing play action. Boom. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that run right through the middle of them. Boom. 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 Right through the middle. No one can get to me. Yeah. Beautiful. I mean, look at that. It's just beautiful. Boom. See? Got you, Mahomes. Look at that blitz action. See, look. Boom. Get past the defender. Whoa. It's fun. Look at that. Boom. Feels satisfying when you do it in the game, especially if it's the character you're playing. But even if you help set it up and make the call happen, it's pretty awesome. This is from like my big game against them. Look at that. End zone bomb. Look at that. Boom. Yeah, that guy put up some big numbers for me. And then look at that. Boom. That was how it set up. It was another touchdown that game. Look at that. Boom, right? Oh, yeah. Look at that. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is you do those scenarios so much, Ultimate Team, when you're playing against a real computer, you feel comfortable with the physics of how long to press the button and setting it up and what defenses to look at. Boom. Got you, dude. Can run, but you can't hide. You can run, but you can't hide. By the way, I don't know if anyone's going to watch this, but I recommend this for stress relief. Like, play-by-playing your own replays is an extreme exercise in narcissism and sharpening your voice. Because how else is the AI supposed to copy it and take all your voiceover work if you don't make noise? What if you can hear that sirens in the background? I live in the land of the sirens. GTA Lobby Cali. Oh yeah. Here's a funny joke. I wonder if like you listen to this thing in 5 years and they still don't have GTA 6. That would be both sad and hilarious. Maybe civilization's collapsed, or it means 3i Atlas got here. By the way, that's something everybody should pay attention to. 3i Atlas is like, have you ever seen that part in that movie Casino where like 3 slot machines go off at once and De Niro gets mad at the cowboy dude because he's like, you should have known, there's the odds of that happening are like 1 in a trillion. Then of course, look at this run by the way. And of course, like with this 3i Atlas thing, it's interesting because it's starting to get there too, where like this thing's kind of weird, times that thing times a weird, times that thing's kind of weird. So like 8 or 9 different things now at this point that are odd. And yes, it is an odd object already, but these are extra odd things about an odd object. And that reminds me of the casino scene where it's like, gosh, aren't you multiplying slot machine odds at some point? And obviously they're not totally known. But just like in this game, you can kind of look at 2 different things that have different values and know there's a big difference, or that it indicates towards some things. And it's like, it's pretty interesting stuff going on around like information blackout and that. And everyone's being a little extra strange about it for such an amazing, interesting object that we should all really care about. And gosh, when it starts to become like this low probability, that's how you calculate probabilities, by the way. More bro science, bro statistics. So if something's a low probability event, it's just it's just a decimal, right? It's like a less than 1 decimal point thing times another thing times another thing. Pretty soon it ends up being a pretty small number or a pretty specific conclusion that starts to really outweigh other conclusions. Kind of sneaking that in here because I'm curious if YouTube's going to figure it out. YouTube's a pretty sneaky little social network that doesn't really like to give you a lot of time or audience for what you do. They want you to curate it. Well, okay, here's content. Here's voiceover content. Here's topicality. And here's a rant about a whole bunch of things. Should put a koan in there too. Like, if a tree falls in the forest with no one around, does it make a sound? That's a koan. There's a lot of weird koans going on lately, things to think about. I don't know if they have answers, but they have things to think about. It's worth considering. Boom, look at that. Ah ha ha. Fake. Play action fake, or I think that was an RPO. Boom, nope. Boom, ah ha ha, they bid on it. That's what's awesome too, look, is that the AI players don't just have instant perfect knowledge. It's like right there you could see they did a good job of letting the AI get faked out like a person would in reality. I mean, that's like, I think, attention to detail that a big company like EA, it's a good investment in behavior. It's interesting now, if you train AI on that, I wonder if you get to the same place. Like, I wonder if EA is just having AI watch people do that. You know, recently I was having to do some jury duty, and one of the people in the jury pool was an AI expert from a couple different famous companies I won't name to preserve his privacy. I wish I gotten to talk to him longer because he works for a major game company now. And I just have to wonder, like, what kind of training is going on with what it can watch. You know, if you can train player behavior and then re-quantify that, I mean, you're just going to see amazing sports games coming out. But not just sports games, like reality. That's the real part. And that's where you can get really drowned in, like, the volume. Like, there's too many good things now. There's too many things to watch. There's too many books. There's not enough hours and minutes in the day to do what you ought to do. And then when you find out that the people that are telling you what you ought to do aren't necessarily looking in your best interest or gaslighting you, well, then you have to really be cautious with your time and what you take resources for. I'll have to tell you, I recently caught a couple times now, I've caught Grok gaslighting me, in one case like massively gaslighting me, being really deceptive. So even with AI, especially AI, you need to really check for hallucinations. The place I work that'll remain unnamed, we had a special class about the things to be cautious with and the legal implications of AI, and there are many. Don't you ever give AI data that's personal or that's confidential or not owned by you and not free to the public, case in point, because it automatically becomes, well, it becomes legally problematic because the AI is going to assume that now it's per whatever agreement you're using, it can use that for other users and other data sets. And there's a lot of complicated laws around that. So that's a good example how even at work AI can get you in trouble, let alone having it do something for you, which you really should always be checking that work if you even attempt that. Because it gets risky. But yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. And I think, like, looking at this, look at this fumble that came out of that. Boom. Just beautiful. I mean, I don't feel like, people don't know. People don't know what, like, the old, like, 80s, 90s, 2000s Maddens were like. I mean, yeah, some of this was in there for sure. There were different mechanics, but just the level of detail now and the fact that you can just render this, like, at pretty much reality level resolution or really close to it. I mean, we're at the point where it's probably going to be too real and too defined where they're going to have to haze it back out again. Because even here, like, probably it's a little bit too clear, but it's pretty close to reality. I'm watching on TV and, like, yeah, the grass versus the grass is pretty much the same. All right. If you like this rant, give me some feedback. Tell me this wasn't just a waste of my time. And do it to show YouTube that they can't force us to bring an audience. They need to actually help us curate an audience and get content out there. You let me know if this works out for you. All right. Take care. And, let me know if you like my sort of ranting, pseudo-intellectual play-by-play tool analysis. Oh yeah, Kool-Aid. Oh yeah.